should be live right now. I think that's the thing. So let's make sure that is the case. Let's see here. We can see all of our names. That's great. And
the most important question, Lewis, what are you drinking?
I am currently drinking nothing.
Oh.
Should I be?
Maybe.
Is that a problem?
I don't know. I was telling Peter, I'm like, I have a coffee thermos in my on my right hand side. I have a glass of wine on my left hand side, and I have a flask full of whiskey in front of me. So
I do have a bottle of whiskey, but I'd have to run and grab it.
well, I highly recommend it. That's if you want to spruce it up a little bit, throw some alcohol in there. No one's gonna know or care. Or actually, we encourage it.
yeah,
So
if you want to grab it.
Exactly. Well, I think we're live now. Let me double check the stream just to make sure that I'm not crazy, because it says I'm live. I don't think we're lagging at all. It looks good to me. All right, awesome. In that case, we're gonna get started real quick. So this is MUME Talk 10, guys. MUME Talk 10, all the way to 10. Mike's gonna be a little bit late today, but we still got myself and Nick here, and but I think he's like a couple minutes late. I don't know how this is gonna work. But today we've got a special guest, which is Aldon. In this, as Aldon the Dwarf is his Discord name right here. You also go by Lewis. Do you mind if I say some of your other characters, by the way?
That's fine.
Awesome. All right, so you also play, most notably, Aldon, or I don't know how you exactly say that, Ailon, Leonidas.
That's how I say it.
Your Aldon, that the same way?
Yep.
Yeah, and your god is Jab, if I remember correctly.
Jab, punch, uppercut.
Exactly. Anyway, so welcome to the cast, man. God, happy to have you.
Mike's there now.
Hey,
What's
thanks.
up, boys?
Oh, we got the full crew.
I think it's time to create podcasting excellence.
Dude, we've been excellence before. Now it's supremacy. Now we're up to supremacy.
Hey, Lewis, what's up, man? What's up?
What's up, Mike?
Hey, it's good to have you, man. Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here.
Awesome. All right, so before we get started with too many things here real quick, let's first get into the new Subrace changes, and then we'll get into some introduction for Lewis and everything. Does that sound good?
Let's do it.
All right, let's rock it off. So first, we've got new sub-race features for Sylvan Elves. So the Sylvan Elves now have a natural affinity for missile weapons and surviving in the wilderness. This does not affect practicing skill. Sylvan Elves are able to track significantly faster in the forests. This bonus does not make practicing track less effective. Sylvan Elves are able to parry enemy blows slightly better compared to other races when wielding ranged weapons. Ooh. And I don't even know how they did the coding for that. Sylvan Elves are able to move through forests more easily as if it were a trail. If the land is good and not gripped by shadow. So essentially they're like the thieves right now. They're very thief focused, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was thinking that line. It's where are there a lot of forest rooms that are not like neutral or battle locked? Because it's right.
That's a great point. For that last bit right there, like
yeah. Sorry,
pretty much.
I kind of jumped into the deep end there. But where? I mean, it's a very cool change. It's very RP appropriate. It's very like lore appropriate. But I was thinking from an alignment standpoint, like where does that really apply?
So right now that only applies to Fangorn, I think. But theoretically, if we ever get to like North Mirkwood, where I forget what the name of the elf kingdom is. You know what the elf kingdom is? Like where Legolas is from?
Yeah. What the hell is that called?
Because technically,
Nick, tell us, what's that called?
we're terrible Lord of the Rings fans. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be
I mean they're in the Greenwood, but I mean I don't know if I even remember what the actual kingdom.
Well, Thranduil is Thranduil is the name of the king. It's not the name of the kingdom, though. But anyway, the point is that area, which we should be like knocking on the doors of that, right? Because we're deep into Mirkwood. That's like exactly where.
I think so, but there's like some raging debate about kind of the geometry and the landscape and the zones. But when I look at the map, I feel like the eastern end of Emon should be super close to Thranduil.
So I thought the eastern
I
end
don't
of Emmen was like close to Lonely Mountain / Lake Town, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. But anyway, so long story short, I mean, that change is cool as hell, but I feel like it just doesn't really apply in the current map. Right?
That one doesn't. The other ones do, though. The other ones are
Yeah,
pretty...
yeah, of course. Yeah, no, sorry, yeah, I shouldn't. I mean, the changes, I think, are really well done. I think the idea of giving more defense when you're wielding a bow is a really innovative change, and I wish like the archer wristband did that. I think like they should have done that a lot in the past. Like that's a really cool idea. But I just feel like that point number 4, it really. I'm trying to think. Like I'm literally typing map global.
I'm pretty sure it's
right
just
now.
Fangorn for the most part.
It's just Fangorn, right?
I think so.
Old Forest. I don't know.
Well, like yeah, that's is Old Forest? That's near Bree, so that's still
It's just
evil,
neutral,
right?
I think, right? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
It is. Well, I mean, didn't you say neutral?
So I don't know. We've not tested it.
If the land is good and not gripped by shadow, so I don't know. Does that mean it's good or neutral?
Well, yeah, I think that's neutral. I mean, maybe there's some little forest areas around Blue Mountains and GH, but yeah.
That is definitely where you need extra moves. 1,000%. Just
not, yeah.
dude, you do not want to be caught moveless around Blue Mountains. It's over. It's
But I'm looking.
okay.
Fangorn.
Oh, so Rogan just cleared this up for us. He said it has some effect in neutral too. It's a scale. Oh, okay. So it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Interesting.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Breaking news. We're coming to you live. There you go.
Rogan's saving us.
Thank you, Rogan.
Well, so actually, Aldon, so all the characters I mentioned, they're all like warriors and casters and stuff. Do you play any scouts? Has this ever affected you?
I have some scouts, but I do not play them often.
Okay.
And I usually play them in a group. When I play them,
We got a group scout
or if
over
I'm
here?
solo. Yeah, or if I solo, I just don't PK at all because I'm terrible at scout PK.
Fair enough. I'm equally as bad, probably worse actually, probably way worse. Also, Rogan is in true Rogan fashion giving us shade right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So those are the changes. I don't know, like Nick, you got any thoughts on those or anything, or?
Well, the idea of I think the last line, if I remember right, you said something about it's basically turns. It sounds like it turns the movement cost. It decreases it. I thought it was already decreased though for elves. So maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that elves already got a bonus when traveling in the forest, but maybe they get a.
They do,
bonus.
but I think so. This one is as if it were a trail.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think you go from like the terrain bonus all the way to like whatever the trail
Yeah,
bonus
I think it was
is.
closer to like
There's a-
grassland or something before, or
Yeah, so that's about rough math is about 0.8 moves when you move per room. So interesting.
I'm glad you know the numbers on this, by the way, Nick, because like when I think of this shit, I'm like, yeah, it's just less moves. It's just that's it. It's just less moves. Anyway.
Well, I came up with these because I for the software that me and Lewis both used to play MUME, I had to figure out it automatically walks you places, and I had to figure out how to tell it what is the optimal route. So I had to come up with what was so I sat there with a human, and I had to find areas with consecutive rooms of the same type, and I would sit there and like go completely hungry and thirsty, so my regen was off, and I would just sit there, go back and forth like 40 something times, and I'd work out what the movement cost was for each terrain type, and I based it off of humans, but it. So I sort of know. It's funny because I took that code and it's in MMapper. It's how it's the numbers that MMapper uses for figuring out what the trail is.
Find the path.
Yeah. The
Nick, your level of patience is like a beacon I aspire to. I wish I could do that.
But yeah, so
Nick has a certain Zen-like guru quality to him.
Guru, exactly, is the right word.
A certain, high up in the Himalayas in a cave, not eating, just
It's just meditating.
Time. Yeah.
Just spamming left, right.
He's meditating in a cave, moving back and forth and taking notes. But actually, hold on. About the Subrace changes, there's an even more earth-shattering development. I don't know, maybe, do you guys even know this? So if you make the poor life decision to read Argle Bargle, which I continue to do, there is an earth-shattering development buried in a thread, which is our fearless coder and our implementer supreme Jahara says we have no plans for allowing sub-race rerolls.
Okay.
So the word has come down. I mean, everybody in the game, all the min-max, all the obsessive, all the degenerate addicts, like myself, have been frothing at the bit with the assumption that they were going to get to reroll, move an elf from Noldo to Sindarin or Noldo to Sylvan or something like that. But according, and then Rogan confirmed it as well. So according to Jahara and Rogan, no. In fact, no. There are no subrace rerolls coming, which I think is a huge, huge development.
Yeah.
Was that ever expected? I wouldn't have expected that would be a thing though.
Well, not to get all psychological on it, or actually to specifically get all psychological on it. I mean, there's a lot of there's a huge contingent of the player base who obsesses about like min-maxing and perfection, and it's like they cannot play a character if they also had the knowledge that the character could be better in some way. You know what I mean? Like that, like it just really frustrates them.
See, I feel like it's necessary to not have it to a certain extent, because if you let's say you could transition sub races, what is then the rationale for you not being able to just transition races? Like, why is races so much bigger than sub races if you can already do that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I personally think it's the right call as well. I'm not arguing in favor of it, but I'm just saying many people clearly had emotionally invested in the hope that they were going to get to move their elves around and move their...
Exactly.
I guess... and they're quite frustrated about it. So,
what, MUME's frustrated? Dude. We're talking about two different games here, clearly.
But go ahead.
Oh, I just said outrageous.
Yeah. But there's people. I mean, people like this. Maybe even some of them are on the pod right now. But people where it's like the knowledge. It's like a stats or something. The knowledge that you could have had better stats makes it difficult and frustrating to play the character.
Yeah, and
it's the same concept.
I do empathize with that. Like that is unfortunate, but you can't just let everyone just re-roll the whole game, like you can't just do a complete reshuffle like that, that.
I think people were hoping they were going to get like a one shot, like a one-time re-roll, and no, that's not happening.
Also, some of it comes down to, the fact that we don't have all the sub races out right now. So, in this situation, clearly it's very thief focused, but like with the other. Rogan gave me a Lembas wafer because clearly and he made me eat it. Well, I didn't know you could do that, Rogan. That's messed up. You can command my character? What the fuck? Anyway, what was I saying? I totally lost my train of thought then. Oh yeah, because we don't have all the sub races out, and like other ones, like so it's like the fallow hides, for instance, like those ones are a little bit more just kind of general. It's not like pigeonholing you into something.
It's not class.
So I think a lot of people might be a little bit up in arms because their particular subrace doesn't have it yet, and they're like, well, they don't recognize the benefit that their subrace has yet. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, actually, I mean, I understand, but it's funny. It's like with a game like World of Warcraft or something. If you just keep clicking, your shit gets better. Like you achieve, right? Like there's no. I feel like the or certainly any like pay to play games, but even the commercial games, like the game designers go to great lengths such that you're never in a dead end, and so long as you keep playing and keep clicking, you're gonna reach that min max holy grail, that
Yeah.
zenith point or whatever. MUME is absolutely not designed that way.
Yeah.
And so people who are kind of caught between those worlds, it's difficult for them.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that even gets
then you
into.
have people-
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
You have people like Lewis here who has probably done just about every character possible. I forget how many. Do you remember off the top of your head, Lewis, like how many characters you have? Because I think one time you told me it was like wasn't it like almost 100 in your account or something? It was like really, really high.
Wow. That's even more than me.
A lot of those, a lot of those at the time were lobies, but I do have, I think, over 40 legends. So
It's a good amount of legends. It's fine. It's fine. It's a good amount. It's a good amount.
Nice.
But actually though, don't want to get too sidetracked into this because we haven't even introduced our guest yet. So let's jump into that real quick. So Aldon, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
yeah, my name is Lewis. I play Aldon. Like you said, Aelon, Durlo. Having several orcs, Alhazred and Gurtok, and I have a Zog Seminole and a bunch of various others, but those are probably my sort of most well known on any given side, I would say.
When did you start playing?
2003, I believe.
Okay, so you're a newbie. Got it. Checks.
Yeah, total noob.
Awesome.
Always will be.
Yeah, it's pretty true. I feel like you just can't play long enough in this game. You'll find someone, they're like, oh, you're just so new. I don't even know you. And you're like, dude, I've been playing this for 10 years. Like, what do you want from me?
Right.
But yeah.
It takes 10 years to get good at the game, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Facts.
So, do you normally play? Are you normally like a white side player, a dark side player? What do you normally gravitate towards? What kind of classes and stuff?
I guess the numbers in my account would say that I play more white side, but I love the dark side, and particularly I love Zog.
Really?
But I really enjoy it. I just can't do it solo. I can't stand it by myself. I need a group of regular people to hop on with, or else I just stick to something that I can play solo, and that ends up being white side, or hanging out and knock on my shaman, just whacking stuff.
Is that just because of the difficulty of Zork?
Yeah, and it's just I don't know if it's as much the difficulty as much as just like I don't find it fun by myself. It's too quiet. There's nothing going on. Everyone's chasing me around. I can't freaking leave without 10 people just like hounding me the whole time. So it's just like whatever.
Fair enough.
I don't find that fun unless I have company to laugh about it with or something,
So you like the social aspect a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the social aspect. Playing with friends is one of the only reasons I play.
Yeah, so the first time I ever met Aldon, actually, Aldon was and he probably does not remember this at all. You were my first trip to Moria. I was on this shitty, miserable warrior who is just broken, really bad. And he was my first legend, and I was part of this massive Moria group that you were leading, and you were just running around killing everything. And this is before Mapper was like a big thing, so I was playing through the Telnet, and I had like zero clue where we were, and you're just zipping all over the place. And I was like convinced if I moved one room, I would instantly die. But that was a phenomenal first experience.
In Moria, you might.
True.
And I have to say too, like, I've said many times, I think I've said on here even, like, Lewis is one of the two people that is responsible for teaching me pretty much everything I know about the game. So, like, Lewis and Alistair are probably the two people I've learned the most from in all the years playing. So, like, I've I've always enjoyed grouping with Lewis because I always learn something when I'm grouped with him.
Absolutely. You were also there for some of our first Balrogs too, because we were messing with it and we had no clue. And so someone like messaged you or whatever, and then we just see Leonidas streaking across the map to come help us and like, explain it to us. And you did it so well too, because like you didn't like take charge and be like, all right, everyone follow me. You just like came behind and you were like teaching along the way, like, here, go do this, go do that. And it was amazing, dude. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. It was a good time. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we mobbed, but it still was fun. It was fun.
More people,
Hell,
mobbed,
I mean-
but we all got it in the end. We got it dead.
It's true. It's true. I know I'm dropping some frames right
You
now.
do Balrog long enough.
I don't think we're lagging. Could chat just confirm that we're not lagging right now?
Yeah.
Real quick. I guess not.
The video looks smooth to me.
Okay,
I'm
as long as video is
watching,
smooth, that's fine. I'm just getting a couple frame drops here and there through my system, so just double checking. Awesome.
You're rocking your kind of Chris Pratt Navy SEAL movie beard still, right?
Absolutely, dude. It's
Looks good, dude.
The scraggly, not Navy SEAL at all beard. Yes, that one.
No, it's like after post Navy SEAL, right? It's like you're
I'm retired now, and I'm writing a book.
Right.
So
You're out for revenge. Yeah.
exactly.
So Lewis, tell us? I mean, how did you get into the game? What were the first magic moments for you where it went from like yet another game to something special? What would like just tell us? Take us through your journey.
Yeah, so I started, like I said, in 2003. There were a couple other blind friends that were playing it, and I was like, oh, it's, and I had just read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and they told me about this game, like, literally probably a week after I finished the whole series, and it was really good timing, because I was just like, oh man, that sounds fantastic. And so I made this dwarf warrior named Gideon, and I just, started trying to figure out how to play, and I died a ridiculous amount of times.
Amen.
And then I hooked up with this like level 24 dwarf. I remember him casting fireball, so he must have been some variation of a dwarf mage. And he just like took me around, showed me Old Fornist, which at the time was revolutionary. I was like, wow. I ran into this wraith one time and he freaking smoked me, and we're just mowing him down now. This is awesome. Revenge. And so then, after I kind of started getting the hang of the Fornost Bree area, I started heading east, and my most notable or most memorable situation, or my first trip towards Rivendell, I got stuck in Windswept. Ooh. And this orc like war shaman dude named Malok came and just obliterated me, and I couldn't go anywhere because I had no moves, and I was just like, oh no. What happened? I died so fast. It was just like, oh, I don't even know how I'm supposed to get away from that guy. Mm-hmm. And then, it was back when Wooland and Stolb and Zemedge were running around, and just like I got freaking one-rounded by them a whole bunch of times, and I don't know, it was a good time.
It was a good time. I died a whole bunch. It was a good time.
It was always a good time.
Mm-hmm. So you said you're a blind player, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So how have you, like, how, I don't know how to say this exactly, but like, how is the way that you play the game? Because you play through a screen reader essentially. So how are you able to keep up with the mapper meta? Like, how do you keep track of the map and everything?
I spent a stupid amount of time memorizing it. It's pretty much the size of it. Just years of repetition, going over it and over it.
Just straight memory. Jesus.
I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure I could tell you the exact directions from Bree to Rivendell.
That's scary.
Let's do it.
It's kind of stupid, but
we start like a donation for every correct room. We add like $1 or something. Give it to a fundraiser. No, that's crazy. Well, so I thought Nick, you said that you have a map though, right?
So not in Mapper, but
yeah.
I I wrote my own sort of program to keep track of my place in the world, and I could drop notes in rooms, and I could label rooms, and then I could run to those rooms from anywhere else in the game. It was basically like a Middle Earth GPS, and it would auto walk me places. And so that's what I shared that with Lewis and Ted, who's another blind player, and Chris and Deidre, who used to play, also were blind, but a whole bunch of us. And so that's what we were all using for a while. And so yeah, that's it's not mmapper, but it's a similar idea, just without looking at it. You know, it's
so it basically just tells you like you are 12 east of something, so or.
Well, you can get directions, path walking directions. You can see. I have we have commands like where to look up where are the nearest labels to you, and it'll give you like a clock face, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever. So if you are, say you're a BN and you pray to a random place and you're like, you're in a field, which is like half of MUME. You're like
what
field? And so
you don't say.
Like, you can just like get a list of nearby points of interest and be like, oh, okay, I know generally where I am because this says this is nearby. So, okay, yeah. And
is that inserting a line saying, like, giving you that prompt between the lines of text that are flying at you? Like, is that talking over the lines of like an orc is hitting you, you know, or is that?
No, it's injecting it into the output.
Gotcha.
It's a proxy, just like mmapper. It sits between MUME and the client. So.
Got it. Yeah, I found this out a couple years ago, how big our blind player base actually is. Like, I mean, our player base is small in general, but like a large, significant chunk of it, I would say, are blind players. And do you guys know like why that is? Like why MUME tends to attract that?
No, I just think it's the accessibility factor. It's texts and screen readers. They blind people tend to gravitate towards text-based games in general, I think.
We don't really have so many now, but at one point in time we had. I mean, oh man, let me think. At the risk of like naming people's actual names, you had Lewis, me, Bronny, Quentin, Chris, Deidre, Ted, Katie. What was that guy that you used to? Was that his name's Matt or something? Wasn't he blind?
Yep.
So that's 9. There's probably more, but that's 9 people off the top of my head that I can think of.
There's another guy I played with for a short time. He just had like 1 or 2 legends and hasn't really played much. His name was John.
And there was Paul, who used to play, who was one of the staff members on TBA Mud, who did he play? I can't remember now, but that was 10 years ago. But yeah, so
I think Chris and Deidre know John.
There's a big community kind of across a lot of muds, right? Like there's like forums, and I know Nick, you've mentioned to me in the past. There's like discussion groups or forums or kind of communities amongst blind players across muds, or.
Well, so there's one community that's existed for a very long time, at least 20 years, probably more, is the audio gamers forum. It used to be an email list. I think it might still be an email list, but it's a website as well, and they do game reviews and software reviews and stuff like that, and things like how accessible is it, what kind of game is it, what was your experience playing the game, stuff like that. They also have forums where people solicit help for playing different games. You do have muds with things. So there is a mud that is made up majority of blind people. You can see usually at least 80 plus people on it at any given time, and
oh wow,
most of them are blind.
That's a lot.
There's another mud that's like that as well. So yeah, there's quite a lot of blind people play muds.
So I know within MUME, you guys both are kind of legendary pioneers, and I know like Nick, written so much impressive software that you've shared. Do you think like let's say a blind player is interested in somehow comes across MUME? Does MUME offer them a pretty good out of the box experience, or is it like they pretty much have to use your software, Nick, or similar software, or like basically kind of like evaluate or appraise or critique MUME from the perspective of like a blind player who's just trying it out new from scratch today?
Do you want to answer that, Lewis?
Well, I will say that the my experience, I've played way more. I've put in way more hours and spent way more time on MUME without Nick's setup than with. So it's definitely doable. I think there's a much larger sort of learning curve in terms of
Right.
timing your muting of the screen reader so you get maximum sort of input from what's happening. But in terms of just overall playability, it's definitely doable. Nick's setup certainly makes it a whole lot more convenient, and it's an awesome luxury to have, but it's not essential necessarily.
It's not insurmountable. Okay.
Nick.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I wanted Lewis to answer that first because I have the terrible habit of comparing things, so I didn't want to start off and like start comparing MUME to other MUDs because I.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to ask.
Well, because I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think Lewis, you don't really you basically just played MUME. You don't really play a lot of other MUDs, so like that's why I wanted you to answer that first because you'd be less likely to go, well, the thing is MUME does this, but this other MUD does this, and like I find myself doing that quite a lot, and it's
Yeah, I've played like one other MUD for a very short time and got really bored. So.
Well, MUME is the best. We all know that. But yeah, Nick, what are some things from other MUDs that were particularly helpful from a blind player's perspective?
Well, some things I'll say, starting off, some things that I do really like about MUME is that the ASCII art is kept to a minimum, and in a lot of
Okay.
Yes.
in a lot of cases, yeah, it's ASCII art is no bueno as far as screen readers go. It does not read well. Just imagine your screen reader
Slash
all
star
the
number.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
dot slash star bar whatever.
Oh, so some whizzes must be really
'cause
bad.
I've always thought MUME was like unnecessary. I mean, a little bit verbose, maybe. A little over the top. Because like when you're in combat, it's like so many adjectives and adverbs. It's like it's just so wordy. But I never thought about the fact that it sort of it trades away all of that crazy slash and bar type ASCII art for kind of a more linguistic, and therefore kind of more parsable, more translatable type medium. I'd never thought about that.
So, I mean, the ASCII art at the beginning when you first log in of the castle or whatever it is, that's fine because you can just you log on, you hit your key to shut the screen reader up for a second, and that's fine, and you don't have to see that again. The maps in the game are pretty much useless because ASCII art.
Yeah,
right.
What I like though is that most quests can be solved without ASCII art. There are only two that off the top of my head. One is that Brie quest for newbies that where I think you get some gold or stuff. I've never been able to do that.
Find something in the forest.
Treasure quest. Yeah.
Right, because there's no alternate text or anything that
Right.
tells you it's just a map. So the other thing is Azerzyra, or however you pronounce that.
Oh, right.
Oh
shit.
is an
Yeah.
ASCII art that dynamically changes, and in order to open that door, you have to align the islands of Numenor. You have to orient them correctly as they would be on a Tolkien map.
So you basically need the script in order to get in there.
I made a script to trigger off of the top line so it can get the top direction, and then it can use that to calculate what the correct orientation should be, and it issues the commands. But if that wasn't there, or if they ever changed that, then I'd have no way of getting it. We'd have no way of getting it.
Well, it seems to me like the Brie one we could pretty easily fix. Like that one, you can just, I mean, we can keep the ASCII, I guess, but we can also add in like a little verbal kind of like, yeah, we think it's hidden 4 rooms or 4 miles west of the tree or something, like, that kind of thing. Just give some like actual verbal text. I don't know about the other one, but
what I've always thought would be an interesting idea is, so you have like on websites, you have alt text for images. So, the idea is you have an image and you write the author of the website writes a little text description. This is a, picture of a dog eating a sandwich or whatever. And so the blind person or a person using a text-only web browser knows, it's a picture of a dog eating a sandwich. You could have something like that on MUME where it issues a text description, and you could have that hidden behind a toggle. So you could toggle that on, so people that were blind and wanted to see these alternate descriptions could have that. Otherwise, they'd see the ASCII art, and that wouldn't spoil the fun of people that wanted to only see the ASCII art, But yeah, it's, I don't know. There's a few things. I think I think Lewis could probably comment on this too. Is one of the things for me though is in PK, the amount of spam, the fact that PK is not very. It's not like there are some MUDs where it's turn based, so it's like it's like,
mechanical. It's mechanical and predictable, kind of.
Well, it's you make a move, then they make a move, then you make a move. In MUME, PK is hit flee, and it's generating so much spam. It's just when you have more than one player doing that to you, it's overwhelming, and you cannot tell what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I tell you what, Nick, inspired by you, Nick, a couple months ago, inspired by all the amazing modifications you've made, I wrote a script that hides tickles. Which is kind of a funny name, but any combat that does a tickle, I just strip it out. And it's a bit you definitely, it takes an adaptation period. You have to because you might just be getting tickled by 5 mobs and you don't see it, so you have to train yourself to keep a little bit more attention on your hit points bar. But dude, in terms of spam in PK, when there's an orc patrol or you're bouncing around, it's like night and day different. It's incredible. It makes such a huge difference. The next one I'm going to work on is corpses. So I'm basically, whenever I'm in a fight and I get overwhelmed and I basically die due to spam, I go back after and I kind of analyze that text now, and I try to figure out what spam was of low value or no value and could be reduced. And corpse spam, if you're in Dark Tower or something, and there's just 8 corpses, every time you go in and out into that room, all that corpse spam. So I'm going to write a script to collapse all of that down to a single line, a pile of corpses lay strewn here. Yeah. And that and then of course we type in examine or something, you see them all. But it's just little stuff like that. The tickle change for me, getting rid of blocking out when mobs say something, and when you block out all tickles, that is night and day difference playing the game. Crazy. I was astonished how different it is.
Spam is the enemy.
Yeah.
And to your point though, it's not unique to blind players either. So I recently not started playing. I experimented with a couple other MUDs just because I wanted to see how they differ from MUME. So I tried the Two Towers MUD and War of the Ring and also Aardwolf. And the things that stood out to me is that, the biggest impediment to me as somewhat experienced MUD player was just when I saw just walls of text, I immediately just didn't read any of it, and I had no clue what was going on. I got frustrated and wanted to get the fuck out of there, A couple of them were maybe a little too simplified. I think it was War of the Ring. Basically, like there was no extra information when you were fighting someone where like you strongly hit. It was just like he hits you, you hit him. He hits you, you hit him.
Right.
Maybe a little too condensed. But as someone who played the game for like 15, 20 minutes, I really appreciated not being overwhelmed. So I think that is 100% something that swings true for all players.
Let me paint a picture. Imagine that you are playing from a client and you have no visual mapper. Your client is limited to 2 lines. So you have your prompt and you have the last line of input, and it's constantly changing. And you have the option of reading everything that's come in, or you can review up a line. But every time you review, that's clearing the buffer of what was otherwise going to be read or in this case spoken. And you have no highlights, no colors or anything. That's what Lewis and I that's basically the conditions that Lewis and I would play under.
It's fucking wild.
You can do some things like make sound triggers for some things and stuff, but it's
can you make the computer like yell certain words like you are shattered and
yeah, but you want to be careful not to create too much spam, because there's audio spam. If you have a million sounds going off at once,
audio pollution.
Absolutely.
That's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. I've always been a couple times, Nick, when you've like played your screen reader over the mic for us. I'm like, it just blows my mind.
It's so fast it doesn't even feel like English anymore.
Maybe for you, Peter. No.
Yeah, I'm over here parsing words, 1 word a minute. That's all I got. That's all I got.
But so Lewis, I was intrigued. Lewis, I would have guessed you were like a mud pro and you played all kinds of muds. But so MUME is really your one and only, your true love, your high school sweetheart in the mud category, really?
Game category, really. I don't play any other games either.
Wow. So you got into Lord of the Rings, you got into MUME, and that was it. Your heart was
just went straight to the good stuff
forever. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yep. I've tried other stuff, and I've always just gotten bored and come back to MUME.
Doesn't have the depth. Yeah. Take us through really formative experiences, or like really kind of inflection points where you went, you went maybe from that guy who got one-shotted or died moveless and swept to like where you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing now, or oh, I got this, or like take us through kind of that journey.
I would say a lot of my knowledge started coming in, and I learned a ton when I started grouping with this guy named Jimmy from Sweden. Played Barzak and Samel and Nalum and Nagak and a bunch of other guys. But he had an incredibly large knowledge of the game, and he was super patient and not afraid to get on my case if I did something silly, which was appreciated. Frustrating at times, but appreciated.
Yeah.
And he literally, between him and Alistair and Kevin, player of Schmidt, and I guess Vardamer, those 4 pretty much taught me everything about the game. And it started with Jimmy, and then I got better and better, hanging out with Jimmy and started playing with the other guys, and they've taught me so much. I guess Telperion as well has taught me some stuff.
Absolutely.
It's so cool. It's so consistent that really good players, whenever you talk to them early on in their journey, there was like another really good player who was like very generous, very taught them. Certainly in my humble case, that's the case. And I think almost everybody I talk to has that same sort of history.
Well, even going back to that first Moria experience, like I said, when you were leading me around, one of the things that stood out to me was you were leading around, and I think I had mentioned something to the fact of like, I have no clue what you're doing. Someone mentioned that you were a good leader, and you immediately, I don't remember what name you dropped, but basically you were like, oh, I learned from this guy, and he was amazing. I'm not nearly as good as him, and I'm over here like, dude, what? You're like God moding over here, and you're saying you're not as good as so and so. But yeah,
I mean, credit where it's due, man. Without Jimmy and Alistair and those other guys. I mean, I would just be fiddling around Bree, barely eking out legend levels, and who knows.
Breed legend status. By the way, not to change the subject, just a quick interjection here. We've made it. We are officially a real podcast. We just got our first spam bot suggesting that if we want more viewers and followers, we should follow this link. So
Yeah, I'm deep. I'm entering my credit card numbers on yourfollows.com right now.
Don't follow that,
I'm
but
deep
don't
in
be
the
like
flow.
Mike.
I'm deep in the
Oh,
flow.
I mean, usually the spam bots that I get are like, "Do you want to increase the size of your little hobbit? Well, call this number.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Take this potion from the green dragon."
Do you want to change? Do you want to change your halfling into a rohir? Well, we offer genital rerolls.
Gorwoke says he checked the link. There was no porn, and he is disappointed. So maybe we're not really a real podcast yet. We haven't had those links yet. So anyway, yeah, that was not meant to interrupt though. Even though it was totally interrupting. But yeah, go
Damn,
ahead.
dude,
No,
we
that
can
was
buy 1,000 followers for 5 months.
Damn.
$5.
That's not bad. That's got to be at least like a 0.00001 conversion rate, at least.
Oh,
so
viewer. We can buy viewers, dude. Oh shit. Damn.
we're over here wasting our time doing things
Yeah, why are we
organically.
wasting our time with the? Why are we wasting our time with the MUME community? What the hell are we
Jesus.
doing here?
Yeah, just buy all the viewership and to hell with the actual viewers.
Exactly.
Exactly. We very much have that. That's deeply encoded in our philosophy.
That's what Two Towers Mods does with their players. They just buy players. So, anyway, sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Lewis, tell us. I mean, I think you've not been playing too much recently, right? You've been kind of not super active in the last couple of years. Is that fair, or maybe I'm in the dark? Or
Yeah, I haven't been spending vast amounts of time on. I hop on when I can, but family. I'm in a band. I'm working. I'm doing a lot of stuff. So
Wait, hold on a second. Lewis, you just had a baby like yesterday, right?
Wednesday.
Yesterday.
Whoa!
Same thing. So congrats on that.
Congrats, dude. Congrats.
Thank
You're
you.
like, I think you and Mike both in the last month. You're like,
Yeah,
both,
my little guy's 23 days old. Yep.
MUME population
That's
is
awesome.
skyrocketing.
Growing, baby. Let's just say we got some productive output over here. Let's just say. Yeah, we're leveling up. We're XPing.
Fantastic.
But what
Game one newbie at a time.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're spawning, we're summoning. But Liz, what like the changes? I mean, we had Pelois on here a few weeks ago, and he was like, I think his hot take was he thinks a MUME Renaissance is coming. I can't disagree. We got really good growth numbers on the player base. We got the $1 billion Amazon spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
But really, my favorite part is, the implementers and the management are building tons of cool stuff. Some of it is specifically designed to agitate and destroy the mental health of a few key Discord players. But apart from that, the management doing a ton of great stuff. What do you think about recent changes to the game? What are you excited about? What do you think we should do? Like, what's your take on sort of like current evolution of MUME?
I think the race changes are really cool. I think it's bringing a fresh element to the game that hasn't really been there for a long time, so that's super fun. I think the drop in rent is huge,
Absolutely.
really huge.
Absolutely.
Because especially a casual player like me who wants to be able to have somebody unretired and just log on once a week or once every couple of weeks, and you log on and your rent is 80 gold or whatever, and then
Yeah.
you have to spend your whole session just grinding cash and in order to rent. Like, that's not fun. So that was awesome. And I love the Dull Golder sort of addition. I think it was super well done, and it's a lot of fun to hang out in. I don't know. I just love that it's still being updated and still being pushed forward, because there was a period there, I don't know the exact years, but it stayed pretty stagnant for a good while I was playing. And so all of these changes and updates and additions and new zones and all the things, it makes it a lot of fun.
Couldn't agree more. Would you say that there's like, so this is not a hot take. We're not at hot takes yet. But like, if
Okay,
you
no,
could,
okay,
no,
whew,
we're not quite at hot takes yet. But but if Lewis specifically, if there was one thing that you would like to see happen in the next like even like year, what would a change that would kind of impact your playstyle significantly look like?
Well,
Or just like where,
my hot
like
take.
even like zones that you would like to see opened next, kind of a thing.
I would love to see like the underside of DG opened, and maybe like Lake Town. I think that would be freaking cool.
Absolutely. We could have a new subrace, Men of Dale.
Yes, that'd be awesome. And
but
like,
no rerolls. No one's
Yeah, no one's getting a rerolls.
Yeah.
you can't reroll to a Dalesman.
Yeah, I asked that question, and I think it was Orlanth, who maybe I forgot to thank. So if I did, sorry. Shout out Orlanth, and he said he thinks that there's 6 zones of distance between like the furthest stretches of Mirkwood and where Lake Town would be.
6 zones,
So-
like real zones or super zones?
No, no real zones.
So like
I
100
think-
by 100 or 10 by 10?
Yeah, 10 by 10.
That's nothing,
yes.
dude. That's nothing.
Well, I mean, going off the Hobbit movies, there's about a 2-hour barrel ride. I felt every minute of that barrel ride. So there's probably about a 200
Log.
mile barrel ride to be had there.
Well, I mean, water goes pretty slow compared to how fast we're running around MUME, so. And by the way, when I say 6 zones is nothing, it's not nothing, but like it's not like it's Mordor
it's doable.
or something.
It's manageable.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
That's
manageable.
because
Very manageable.
How
yeah.
big is Emin? Emin is like what, 10 zones, something like that.
Big, yeah, 8 or 8, at least 8. Yeah.
Minimum.
Emin is massive.
I wish with Emin, like Emin is such a cool zone, but the only problem is that the way it's designed, it does not work well for people that have to keep the zone in their head. I'm sure visually you can display it and it looks nice, but like when every single room is like a bottleneck, and it's just like these windy little trails, everywhere, and maybe they intersect at some point, and it's like it's impossible. I mean, I can't speak for you, Lewis. I just, even to this day, I kind of rely on my program to get me from each cluster of mobs in Emin, because it's just impossible to get it straight in my head.
Yeah.
No, too windy.
Go ahead, Lewis. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I would say that it's possible because Moria is very similar, but the number of hours I spent learning Moria, I'm just not gonna do that again. So,
Actually, to be honest, Lewis, I think Emin is harder to learn than Moria. Because
probably
in Moria you've got some kind like the
You've got main roads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the roads
true.
and the room descriptions and the safe rooms and the water, like there's like an intuitive kind of spatial network where you're like, oh, I'm here, I need to go there, or oh, I can bail here, or to get there. Like I feel I'm never in Moria where I'm like overwhelmed or whatever. Whereas Emin, like exactly like you're saying, Nick, I'm like, because I love Emin, I mapped the shit out of it. It will always have a very, very special place in my heart. But whenever I go there, I'm like, oh, I forgot about this one way here, and I forgot about this arduous, 8 mountain rooms, and I forgot about the fact this climb is like needs super high climb percent, and it's like you just it's every time.
And
I
imagine
feel like
now if you couldn't refer back to looking at the map.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. Yeah, so just every time I'm like, well, my characters ended up hurt, move slow, and I'm just sick of this. Like, I just want to get the hell out of here. Which is not to say I think it should be easier. I'm not saying I think it should be easier at all. It's just, it's sort of, it it frustrates in a way that I'm not motivated to want to learn and get better and conquer it. I just honestly, I'm like, nah, this is not worth it. I'm gonna, I'm getting the hell out of here. Sadly.
Rogan, by the way, just setting the record straight, he says the top side of Dol Guldur is not open either. So technically, what we have, what we call Dol Guldur, that's like an outskirt kind of a thing.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But yeah, so would you say that though, with like regards to Emin, is the problem? Is it a reward problem? Is it over engineering? I know we've talked about this a little bit, but like just to clarify a little bit, like is it that there's too much stuff happening, or is it that the stuff happening is not worth it, or both?
It's over. Go ahead, Lewis. You go first, Lewis. Of course.
I was just gonna say, for me, it's worth it. The first 2 or 3 times a character goes there, and then after that, the XP rate drops enough that I just don't want to bother.
Got it. Okay, fair enough.
I feel it's over engineered because I struggle to develop like a good spatial intuition for that kind of swamp. That the big chunk of the water rooms there, that area in the very middle of it where it's like a cross and there's randoms in all 4 directions near the humid cave or humid cavern or whatever. That always frustrates me. It just, like, I don't know, maybe if anyone has figured out how to navigate that little kind of mini zone of that 3x3 of randoms in the very middle of Emin, if there is a secret, please, I will give you any in-game reward you want if you'll let me know. But it just feels arbitrary. Then you get some mobs on you, and you're like, this is like I'm just rolling the dice to see if I die. So I think it's a little bit too over-engineered for its good. That'd be my take.
Gotcha.
I don't know of any way. I was grouping with Alistair when it came out, and I remember like he sort of fiddled with it. He told me he couldn't figure out a way. So I don't think I think it is just random. As far as I know, the gods actually have 2 different libraries for random exits. They have so there's 2 types of random movement, and yeah, that's
the true random, not the navigable random, the true random. Yeah, it's not a maze; it's a dice roll.
Yeah, it's random forced movement in this case. So it's the exits are logical, but just like say it's like in Lord. Yeah, I was just thinking Lord, and like there's a single room in Lord that splits your followers even. All the other rooms don't split your followers; they just have forced random movement. But then there is a single room in there that will split your followers as well. And so that's why you hit that, and sometimes you wind up with no one following you at the end of spamming through there.
Yeah, there's a definitely like a super important yet difficult balance or line you have to tread trying to figure out. And I haven't completed a zone, so I don't know what I'm talking about here. But like in terms of trying to figure out what the correct line between difficult / challenging versus frustrating is. And actually, Lewis, you can probably talk to this because you are a Maya Right, which means that you've completed a full zone. What zone did you build?
I built a zone in Newbie Land.
Oh, Tower Hills? Okay, gotcha.
The Black Hills, yeah.
Gotcha. So very difficult, very frustrating. Got it. Checks it.
Yeah, well, and mine might be the most boring zone in the whole thing, so.
Well, so I'm just amazed that you could do that just because it is incredibly frustrating, just like the mechanics of trying to format a zone properly, like making sure you have all the line spacing and everything like that. Like, honestly, it was pretty inspiring knowing that you were able to do it, and I'm over here bitching when I can see all the messed up spaces and everything that I've got.
It's frustrating I had to use the in-game editor for pretty much all of it because I hadn't been using Nick's stuff. He added a text editor to his setup, so I used the in-game sort of built-in %J to align everything. Like
Jesus Christ,
it was
dude.
Oh,
It
Hey,
was
look,
super.
listen, people.
super fun.
The guy who did this thinks Inman is frustrating. What is it?
By the way, Beetlejuice in the chat saying, "Hey man, Tower Hills is nice." So, yeah, absolutely. Don't be beating yourself up on that.
Thanks.
Brandon,
How's our boy Kazagrin doing?
I think you know what? I'm in game.
He's like level 16, level 17.
Who
I
is
think.
Emerald? Let's see what we
Kazagrin,
got.
tell us in the chat how you doing, man. How's the all good, my man? How's the leveling? You getting frustrated? You grinding? 17, level 17.
Dude.
Way to
oh,
go.
nice.
So that is a 100% organic YouTube-based newbie making level 17. Way to go, man.
And level 17, that's like you're past the pain period. Like that now it just gets better,
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
good to go.
Yeah,
you're good
like
to
you
go.
can start like it's definitely early, but you can be involved in the super mob group and no one's going to ask questions, you know.
Way to go.
Yeah,
Shouts
dude.
out Kazagrin. Way to go.
Huge congrats there for sure.
I wonder how many what's the ratio for every Kazagrin? There's like 50 newbies who gave up.
Well, I don't know. Our numbers have actually been really good recently in terms
Yeah,
of
you're right.
I shouldn't retain.
I shouldn't. Yeah. But it's cool. It's cool to know that someone who'd never played Muds and found us via YouTube can have that level of success. That's
I
really
know.
exciting.
I'm just stoked.
That
I'm
is
so stoked.
fantastic.
Every time I see him on, I'm just like, fuck yeah, get it. And he's like, oh, I mobbed to werewolves. I'm like, okay, well, we'll fix it. We'll fix that.
I was going to say, Random Effects, you're talking about editors. Sort of tidbit of information. So we have the help file, the technical information for MPI, which is the MUME protocol. No one knows what the I means. Some people think it's indicator, initiator, whatever. But the remote editing support was actually added by our friend Chris, who was another blind player. And it's because I wanted to add local editing support to my my proxy thing, and I started reading beam.c, which is part of the powwow source, which is the de facto documentation. And I'm looking at that, and I was going to mention it last week because Mike was talking about the gnarliness of the powwow source, and it's like I was looking at it, I kind of got it, and then I didn't, and then I kind of got it, and I didn't, and I'm like, and like, so I sent that over to Chris, who is also playing, and Chris is a amazing programmer. He's worked at the same big search engine that you did, Mike. He worked there for a while. He has worked at a bunch of different places. He's a kernel hacker too. He's contributed code into the Linux kernel. He's very good at working with gnarly bits of C. So I sent that over to him. I'm like, can you make any heads or tails in this? He looks at that. I think this is a second cup of coffee problem. An hour or so later, he sends me back a text document, which is what eventually became the help file under help XML for the MPI. If you see there, Dane credited him and said, the remote editing text is contributed by Kron. That's Chris's god. But I just remember like this is the second cup of coffee problem, and
damn, this guy rules.
He spits back that exact documentation with I was like, dude, you have, because I had been asking I'm like, is there any technical documentation on this? And there was just like, oh, read beam.c. I'm like, yeah, you read beam.
Yeah, no, dude, the powwow source code is like, that's a dark artifact.
I just love that, like, Chris just went away with it, came back, and that's how I have local editing in my setup. That's how now anyone can implement it, because Chris took the time to do that, and took the time to make that second cup of coffee, and wrote up
Chris rules. Holy
wonderful
shit.
technical documentation. And
we got to get Chris on the pod.
Yeah,
amazing
shit.
Dude. Amazing dude.
Yeah.
And
what's his god? What's his god?
Kron. I think it was a KRON. It's in help MPI or help XML.
Okay.
CRON maybe.
I checked Help
pretty sure it's
XMO.
big.
I don't see him on there. Maybe it's
It's down at the
the
bottom.
other one.
It's where it talks about.
Yeah, it's Help MPI at the bottom of Help PI. The documentation cron. Man,
All right,
I
well,
gotta get this dude.
yeah, we'll have to talk to him, see what's going on.
This dude's coming on the pod.
But yeah. So yeah, we're getting close to around that time though for hot takes. So if you don't have hot takes yet, now is your 5-minute warning to think of a hot
I gotta
takes.
go breathe. I gotta go breathe into a paper bag.
Exactly. Although I know Lewis has had his for a while. He's been thinking about it. We hopped online for a mic check last night, and he's like, "Yeah, I got it ready," and then we had to stop ourselves from talking about it.
I'm excited.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But so before we get into that though, so we got a little time to think about that real quick. Lewis, what is like one of the most rewarding experience you've had recently in MUME? Like what was one of the most fun sessions?
Recently or in general?
Well, either one.
So I would say recently has been just doing full rerolls on old characters that are not usable or previously weren't usable or
I know that feeling.
not really relevant due to different changes. Like I had this old warrior that had 100% track and in old MUME without Pursue 100% track was awesome, but now it was like dropping some stats unnecessarily for 100% track because I feel like with Pursue you don't really need as much track. I think 85 is a good spot. And so, but rather than change him into another warrior, because I have a gazillion of them, I turned him into a combo. So that was fun.
Yeah, and you're go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I really like tinkering with stats, so just re-rolling and stuff, I find that really fun. So
A stat guru. Yeah, I was going to say, you were thinking of re-rolling Aldon, I think, right? Your
I
highest
considered
level?
it. We'll see what happens. He's not up for a re-roll until November, so I got a minute to think about it.
Gotcha.
Is he like a max strength and max con warrior, kind of the conventional, or did you get a little weird on him?
He's -1 on both and max
Got it.
dex.
Got it. Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's such an interesting observation how like everyone in MUME just loves obsessing over like I don't know like theory crafting. Theory crafting is one of the best parts of MUME, and it seems like no matter who you ask, they're always like, yeah, I just like to play with stats. It's like fuck yeah.
I do, man. It's so much fun. Just like this character could do this in theory, and then you try to implement it, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it falls flat on its face. But
Usually it
it's a good
falls
time
flat
anyway.
on its face. Have you ever gotten a character 26 and you're like, yep, that doesn't work. This guy's dead. We're over. Retire. Done.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I have a lot of legends that I'm re-rolling now.
Yes. Exactly.
They got to legend and they're trash.
That is done with that.
That's one nice thing about MUME that really distinguishes it from every other mod I've tried is MUME for advanced players lets you pick your stats. I'm sure they do exist. I just can't think off the top of my head of other mods that let you pick your stats. They do sort of one of two things. Either the stats are automatically assigned to you, base stats are assigned to you when you create the character, and then you have to train them. So you spend practices not just to acquire skills, but also to train stats, and sort of like D&D, you know, and the higher you train them, the more practices it costs. So it's like 5 practices to increase your strength, and then after a while it's 6 practices, right? And then some mods, it's completely random. Again, sort of like some D&D games where you have to roll dice and keep rolling dice until you get something you want. And at that point, that is just irritating, and every good player on those types of mods has a script to automatically keep re-rolling and re-rolling and re-rolling until you get good stats. But MUME actually gives you the fine control to be able to pick your own stats, which is something I've always really loved about that.
Completely agree. I love.
Yeah, I've really I've
Go
really
ahead.
spent a lot of times. I've spent a lot of time in the stat weeds for sure. Just be like, well, if I do one strength here, then I can move this one down a little bit, and it'll still work pretty good. And like so many times, I've just sat and spent an hour moving little bits of stats around to try and come up with the best possible scenario for the given character.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
It's a good time.
Or Lewis, keep going.
No, I was just go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I have a little story time since I think I started playing poorly before all you guys. So when I found MUME off the Mud Connector or Top Mud, I mean whatever, some mud site like 96 or something, and I didn't even have. I mean I was coming from like a Warcraft 2 type level of point and click type mentality. So it blew my mind. I had no idea. I totally didn't really understand the concept of stats, or didn't understand that of like it didn't even occur to me, right? Like so I had a character which I thought was a mage, but I mean I think I had like a hodgepodge of like leather and chains and a sword that was too strong for me. But when I got that message, it said you're too weak to wield this. I was like, well, I can still wield it. So I'm just like killing wolves, and I get to like level 8. And I'm wondering, in Harland, like I just loved Harland. Harland and Forland both were just blew me away. Just the atmosphere and the intricacy and the richness of the worlds. And so I come across in one of the little bars. I think there's like a bar beneath the lighthouse in Southwest Harland, I think. So I'm exploring, and I walk in there. There's a player in there, and I'm talking. And the guy's like, level 40 or level 50 or something, and I'm blown away by how high level. And I'm chatting, and I'm probably trying to like hustle gold out of the guy or something. And the guy's like, "What are your stats?" And I have no idea. And I'm like, "I don't even know what stats are." And then I paste my stats, and he's like, "Oh, those are terrible." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "You got to reroll." And he's like, "Well, the way you play MUME is you make a character, you level it to level 5, then you find out what your stats are." Because I hadn't even noticed, like when I first started playing, the stats were hidden because I didn't even know that there were stats. And I kind of missed it at level 5. And he's like, "Yeah, you just got to keep trying over and over and over again until you get good stats." And to me, this was insane because I've been playing for like 2 months on the first character, and I was like level 7. I was like, how the hell could I ever, like, you're expecting me to do all this again only to find out if my character is good? So that was like the first sort of like, staring into the abyss, dark side of the meme addiction coming there. But guess who that player was? It was Gray. That was the only that was the only time I ever interacted with Gray in game back in the 90s. Was him basically forecasting the entire kind of dark future career I was going to have for 30 years, which is that he was saying, "Those stats suck, you got to make a new character," which is pretty much what I've done at a higher level for 25 years. So.
Gray strikes.
Gray was prophetic. Gray was prophetic.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
That's hilarious.
I think the other, I wanted to go back to your question. The other, I said, all time sort of most rewarding thing in MUME for me. There's a log of it, and once the profile side of things of Elven Runes is fixed, you should be able to find it. But I was with Vardamir and Telperion. I was on my warrior Gurtok, and we saw, like, I can't remember if I think it was four pukes in ABR Mines, the place with the spirits and the tarantula and the cave bear, and then you go down, there's a one-way, and then there's a giant and stuff in there. We blocked the hatch, and Telperion was a long ways away, and so he ran like from Tharbad or something and blocked the hatch, and then we went in and we killed all of them. And I went to Awful at one point, and Melissa, I guess it was Melissa, not Vardamir, but the same guy, and he recited a scroll on me and got me back to wounded or something. Telperion ended up dying like almost instantly, which
BN life.
It's kind of what BNs do, unfortunately. Yeah. But we ended up killing all of them. And it was just like, I can't believe that happened just now.
Yeah.
It was probably the most fun I've ever had in my life.
That first handshaking PK win.
Do you know what that log was
Yeah.
called? Remember, like, the title of it?
I think it was ABR Mines by Melissa.
I know exactly that log. It's on Melissa's page. It's on the Vardamir's page. Yeah, I've definitely read that log before. Yeah, because
That's right. It's on his Google page.
Melissa blows me away because, I mean, who like a level 90 something shaman back in the day? It's just insane to me. Before the level changes, even it's just blows my mind that someone playing shaman at that high level. But yeah, I've definitely read that log. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's just like he calls out the targets. I managed to catch all of them in the spam somehow, and I'd just be like, "Well, I guess that one's down. We're switching to the next one." And he just spammed around, and really he did most of the work, and I just hit whatever target he wanted me to hit, and
But I feel like
he did literally most of the work, but it was a good time.
But that's effective PK right there. Like a good PK group is not 3 players who are really skilled. It's I mean, it can be that, but it's long. You need that leader who makes the calls, and then everyone just follows through immediately on it. You know, it's when you've got people trying different things that's when you immediately fall apart. You know,
Communication is key.
Exactly. Focus. But no, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check out that log later. But it is now time. It is now time for hot takes. So I hope you're all ready. But we're gonna start off with Lewis though, because I know you're ready for this one.
Well, my hot take is travel points are garbage. Like,
Yes.
I get the idea. And I'm on board with finding a way to force people to leave, their comfort zone. So I understand the mentality behind that, but the way it's set up right now is not good. Like, there are characters that I've hit the TP wall around 30, and I just completely quit them because I can't stand it. It's so tedious. It's such a grind. It's so boring. Like, if there was a way to make travel points more fun and more rewarding, other than just, I've got to spend the next hour and a half running in left right pattern across every zone in Arda to get my level, then
Lawnmower
I would
Rohan
be more
or
on board.
something.
But yeah, it's so boring. I hate it. Like, there have literally been times where I get a character to 35 or something, and then I get enough XP for like 40 something, 43, 44, and then I retire it and never play it again, just because it's like, man, that's such an insurmountable thing. It's not, but it feels like it.
Were you around, I think, a couple years ago? Do you remember they had an April Fool's thing where it was, I think it was 2020. It was 2020, where everyone in real life was running out of the stores with all the toilet paper, right? And so they had a quest for TP in MUME. That was so much fun. I don't know if you experienced any of that. Did you? Or
yeah, and they had like the leaderboard and like the guy who got the
like
most
a TP master. Yeah, it's like warlords.
Yeah,
TP hunters. It was so cool.
Yeah,
it's like you wander around and you're tracking TP. Have something like that. It was so much fun. I had so much fun.
Yeah, that was a good time. Like I said, if you can make travel points fun, I'm in. But right now, like, I think it would be value added to just completely zap travel points from the game currently if the current implementation is, like, if it's between that and nothing, I would say nothing is better.
You think the current implementation is just this unfun mechanic, basically?
I think 101% of the player base agrees.
Yeah, I won't. I can't come on too hard on either side of this but I'll probably be on your side in that descent. Like I've never been like, yeah, let's go TP. No, it's never been why I log.
Yeah, so actually this is kind of my baby hot take, a little early, but I actually had my idea this week was literally a proposal for that, Lewis, because I'm doing the Istar quest for the second time this week, which don't even get me started. We need an additional 90 minutes to talk about that. It's completely insane. You only earn XP in metamorph form, but you only earn TP in like humanoid non-meta form. So I'm literally just like holding my baby, watching YouTube, and then writing scripts to just do 10 east, 10 east, 1 south, 10 west. Like I'm fully exploiting. I'm hacking it. I'm doing every conceivable hack or exploit I possibly can for this TP bullshit. But I had an idea. Get rid of travel points and make trophy diversity a requirement for level. So in order to level up, you have to have some notion of a diversity of mobs. Like maybe it's like total number of mobs, or maybe it's like you have to have 5 mobs which are like your level -1 or something on your trophy. So you can't just or maybe it's like you have to have 30 new mobs on your trophy since the last level or something like that. But make it about the adventure of, you know, exploring and adventuring and fighting things, not just literally 10 east, 1 south, 10 west, 1 south, not that bullshit. So something where you're like, oh dude, to level up you got to go to brush and you got to go kill a patch of weeds and large spine bush. Or, oh, to level up, oh, you're 14, you got to go to Old Fornos and clear the castle. That's the best way to get the 5 new, you know, high level mobs on your trophy so you level. But some notion of like breadth of combat and adventure instead of just mind-numbing room spam.
So you're kind of turning.
I agree.
You're kind of turning the TP aspect into kind of a quest to a certain extent, where like you have
trophy points.
Okay.
Yeah, so trophy points instead of travel points.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So let's say in order to get level in, you have to have 5 mobs at level N-1 on your trophy or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that way, and there aren't those mobs west of Bree or whatever. So you're like, okay, I got to go to Old Fornos, or oh, okay, I got to go to Tarbat and, you know, kill Assassin and whatever. You know, like you've always got to be thinking, what are the next few mobs I need to go kill to justify it.
Well, remind me later, Mike, and I will send you my Lua code for Mush Client to follow roads automatically, and you can just like do the minimal work required to adapt that here, because I know you use Mudlet, so you can port the trigger part of it to Mudlet, and there you go. You can walk back and forth along roads.
Exactly.
Sadly, that doesn't work as effectively as it did in old travel points. You could just spam between like Bree and Morthen.
But it's just brute force, dude. All I'm doing now is just brute force. I'm not even trying to be clever about it. I don't even want to invest brain cells in it. I'm literally just like, I spend an hour while I'm watching a movie with like just like casually. I just store a teleport, so if I get in trouble, I can teleport out and just like mind-numbingly spam around roofs. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I did think actually of making something in my little mapper thing of basically it would just automatically walk to. I'd set a boundary and it would just automatically walk to every room,
surface room or something
in that boundary. Yeah, and if you wound up fighting something, it could detect it and it could flee. If it did, as long as you're watching your screen, it's not against the botting rules. As long as you have it on your screen and you know whatnot. But you know, I never really got around to it. But yeah, TPs are horrible.
Nick, you're up. Hot take.
Kind of in the same vein. It's funny. I'm so glad I thought of a different one, because I initially was actually going to go with get rid of TPs, because I was like, that's not been done yet. But I'm glad I thought of a different one. So another sort of thing I've sort of swiped off of sort of other mods, which I really like, which is great for helping newbies, and it's a great icebreaker for them. And maybe if they're not super, you know, social, or they're shy or whatever, allow players to donate small amounts of XP and TP to players below level 21. because that I was on a mud where that was a thing, and someone randomly gives me what was it, like 4K XP, and in that mud that's the equivalent of I don't know, maybe 10 mobs or something at my level. And so I was like, oh wow, thank you so much. And that was a way we started this conversation. And he's like, hey, I'm going to add you to my friend list, and you can do likewise. And if you need anything, here's, you'll see when me or one of my alts is on, and we can, you can ask me if you need anything. And it led to this whole conversation about giving me advice on game mechanics and whatnot. I really liked that. It wasn't anything that I couldn't have, I could sit there and kill 10 mobs or something, but it was a really nice thing to do for a newbie newbie player.
It's like saying, here's a cup of tea or something. Here's
it was really nice. So there you go. Donate, allow experienced players to donate a small amount of XP or TP to newbies.
So yeah, as long as it's like very much like newbie, like you gotta have a newbie flag below this level kind of thing. I could see that being a good way to like be like, yeah, come along,
yeah,
absolutely. For my hot take here, I'm gonna have to go with. So we've been having some talk about. All right, it's almost time for Darky sub races. Like it's almost time, basically, and there's been some talk about how they're going to split that up. I'm assuming they're not going to add actual sub races to the Darky side. They're just going to add each whatever, except for the trolls, because the trolls already have sub races. But like they are going to add the bonuses, but the Black Numenorians and Tarknarb Orcs and Zogger's Orcs, they're already sub races. But one thing I wouldn't hate is if on at least like on the Tarknarb side, or you can do it on the Zargar side, you just add a subrace in, and it functions exactly the same as the Puke side. Like there's no difference except for you've got an extra flag that says you are now like an Uragash orc, and maybe you can load in Old Orc Caves or something, but that's it. That's the only difference. But that allows you then to have more flexibility to add in these subrace changes, and you're not doing a game breaking, like we're adding another side. Like that is a huge deal. I understand that, but like just copying orcs and then adding a new flag to them so that you can help distinguish them a little bit. I think that would be a reasonable way of going about adding more Darky subraces or bonuses, cleanly. Now, we do have actually, we did have a Rogan who was going to come on the podcast and tell us how bad all of our hot take ideas were. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, so next time, Rogan, you can come on. But since you can't make it today, that's it for today. Thank you so much for Lewis coming on. Really fucking appreciate it. And again, thank you to everyone else for
thank you, Lewis.
Helping host.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Good luck with the new board.
For sure. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And Mike, you gotta.
I'll need it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. Good luck with the newborn. But Mike, you got an outro for us?
I'm workshopping one. This is like a draft. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Here we go. Okay. Thank you for listening to KMUM, the MUME Talk Radio Network. Of course, KMUM couldn't exist without the generous support of degenerate gaming addicts like you. Make your contribution at kmum.org, and we'll send you a free tote bag. I'm still working on it.
I feel like we were just like part of like a dirty PBS podcast.
That one's still got a ways to go.
I love it. Anyway.
This got flashbacks.
Exactly. All right, that'll do it for today, guys. Peace out.